Hello and welcome back to Mr. C's Accounting, where we are looking at financial statement presentation of shareholders' equity. Let's get into it. So the sections of shareholders' equity include, number 1, contributed capital. Hopefully that term sounds a little bit familiar, which consists of share capital, additional contributed capital, that should sound familiar, and retained earnings. Now, share capital consists of both preferred and common shares. Preferred shares are reported first. This is partly a prestige thing. This is also partly to mesh with the notion that preferred shares are paid dividends before common shares are. And the statement, or rather share capital, must detail the type of share, whether it's preferred or common, the legal value, that should sound familiar, i.e. no par or stated value, and the number of shares currently authorized. Oh, and also important, the number of shares that are issued. So you might remember from the last video that I mentioned a few times how companies are not required to pay dividends until they've been declared. A similar principle goes with issuing shares. Companies can issue shares whenever they want. They usually do it in order to raise capital. And a company may authorize the issuance of, say, 10,000 shares. Let's say they want to raise a really big amount of capital. They don't necessarily have to issue all 10,000 shares at once. They'll likely do it in stages. So there can be a difference between the number of shares authorized, meaning that the company has said that they will issue these shares, and the number of shares that have actually been issued at the date of the statement of shareholders' equity. So, additional contributed capital. This category only exists if you have stated value shares, and it'll only have a number in it when the amount of money paid for shares is over the stated value. And check out page 667 for an example of shareholders' equity presentation and formatting. Okay, we're going to switch over to a little bit about ratios. So, return on equity is an interesting ratio. Whenever the word return is mentioned in according to financial context, net income will be involved. So, the word return means something you're getting as a result of something else. For example, if you've heard of return on investment, or ROI, it's the amount of money that investors expect to get in exchange or as a result of their investment. So return on equity measures how many dollars in profit are earned for each dollar invested by shareholders. And that's important. If you as an investor are investing money in a company and it's not making very much, then that should be a good indication that maybe you shouldn't invest anymore. Or if you're looking at companies and you see one that you think is an attractive investment opportunity, but then you check their return on equity and it's not very good, then that should cause you to pause and reconsider. And so it's an important measure of profitability in so much as how it pertains to the amount of investment the company has received. So return on equity, or ROE, is equal to net income divided by the average shareholder's equity. So book value per common share. This, you might have seen this before. This represents how much equity each shareholder has in the net assets. So assets minus liability of the company. So step 1, calculate preferred shareholders' equity. So in order to find the book value per common share, we need to know the preferred shareholders' equity first. So preferred SE is equal to preferred contributed capital plus dividends in arrears. If you remember, reminder from last video that this is the amount of dividends that have not been paid yet. Step 2, calculate common shareholders' equity. So now we've got preferred shareholders' equity, now we need common shareholders' equity. And this is equal to common shareholders' equity, or sorry, whoops. Common shareholder equity is equal to total shareholders' equity minus preferred shareholders' equity. Oh, there's a bit of an animation mix-up there. I think, yeah, okay. Step 3, calculate the book value per share. And that is equal to the common shareholders' equity divided by the number of common shares. So for example, if we assume that the following information is given to you, we have preferred share capital is equal to $770,000. We have dividends in arrears of $54,000. And we have preferred shareholders' equity at $824,000. You'll notice that this is equal to the sum of these two. Step 2, total shareholders' equity is equal to $4,688,000. This is assumed as a given, by the way. I didn't magically come up with this. Minus preferred shareholders' equity, which is the amount we got on the previous slide. And that gives us our common shareholders' equity, which is $3,864,000. So we take that $3,864,000 and divide it by the number of common shares issued. That's what CS stands for, by the way, is common shares. And so, again, this number is given. I didn't magically create that number. So $3,864,000 divided by 400,000 common shares will give you $9.66. Okay, so interpreting that info, in essence, if the business were to wrap up at this point, in other words, if it were to shut down, each common shareholder would walk away with $9.66 per share based on the accounting values. So that's what that means. And that is it. So, I hope you found this video informative. Some of these ratios are really interesting, by the way. If, like, I had a question from a student about PE ratios, and that's interesting as well. A lot of these ratios can give you some insight, but none of them, none of the ratios are end-all be-alls, you know, like each one of them has their own unique use and their own application. So if you find this stuff interesting, definitely check it out on YouTube, or you can email me. I've got a few videos that talk about like PE, for example, and other ratios. But yeah, check it out. And I will see you in the next video. All right, bye.